And I was working at our last firm. We'll bleep that.
You hear an agent come down in the morning and they'll be like, Mrs. Jones has just called me. She's had an automated email alert for a property that I have no idea about. And I booked a viewing and she's made an offer and now I'm in for a 20 grand fee. If you just replicate that scenario with Mrs. Jones 10 times, you're on a 6-figure salary. Sometimes when I talk about advisor and the advisors that we've got giving advice on advisor, it gets a lot of advisors. So that's when I flipped to ADVSR. Question to the audience is,
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of The Real Ones. Today I'm joined by the one and only, actually there's two. I've never had two guests before. I'm sorry, I'm so used to saying one and only. Everyone is one and only except for you guys. You guys are two and only now. So, Sara Elliot, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Oh wow, you guys promised that. So, a lot of people are wondering, what is the dark horse behind DDRE Global that, you know, everyone's talking about the Netflix show. Yeah, sure, you guys are super cool and stuff now, I get it. But what they don't know is the technology beast that lies underneath, right? So before we get into all of it, I think I'll let you guys just introduce yourselves and we'll go from there. Talk to us about who you are, what you had for lunch, and we'll go from there.
So I'll take this one. I'll go first.
Yeah, ladies first.
So I'm Elliot, I'm the head of digital at ADVSR or advisor. I think we'll get onto that a bit later in the podcast. But I was also one of the founding team at DDRE Global, which is where I really met Sara Allin.
Wow.
I'm Sara, I'm the COO at Advisor and at DDRE, and I, exactly that, Danny and I used to work together at the last firm we were at.
Okay.
And
is it like the one that shall not be named?
The one that shall not be named. Also, so did Elliot. I think we're a bit of a support group for her.
Oh wow, okay, that's how this whole thing started.
Yeah, exactly so. And Danny and I worked together for 3.5 years there. I need to stop you right there. The problem is that most of my audience is probably in Dubai. And to us, Daniel's a homie, like we know who Daniel is, but to most folks, advisor, DDRE, etc. is new. So talk to us about that. So DDRE was born out of a vision of I think how we felt the industry ought to be in the UK. We both have travelled a lot. He spent a lot of time in the States especially, and a fair amount of time also in Dubai. We set DDRE up in February, we went into lockdown in March, and so a big part of that time he spent in Dubai as well. And we kind of took the best parts that we saw of the brokerage model and enabling people to grow businesses, be self-employed, do their thing, really driven, hungry, passionate people, and paired that with the business we'd come from, which was more corporate, more essentially people being employed, having a lot more structure and a lot more back office support. And we put the two things together, and 4.5 years later is DDRE. And a big part of that we felt was the technology that drives it and the ability to transact globally and be connected globally, which I think for everybody in real estate is a problem. Now we live in this globalized world where people, especially at the top end of the market, ultra net worths, high net worths are, if you're buying a £20 million house in London, you likely want to also have a villa in Dubai, you probably want to have an apartment in New York and this and that, but I don't necessarily know who to speak to in Dubai when it comes to that. I don't know who to speak to in the south of France. And being able to have a global network and transact globally is super important, and that's where Advisor came in, was born.
Elliot, is that your description of ADVSR/advisor? First of all, which one is it? Let's get this right.
So look, I flip between the two. Yeah. Our brand name is ADVSR.ai. That's our domain. Sometimes when I talk about advisor and the advisors that we've got giving advice on advisor, it gets a lot of advisors. So that's when I flip to ADVSR. But look, I think question to the audience is, which do you prefer? to our Dubai homies.
Can I settle this for you? I'll settle this right now. If ADVSR does not have a full form, it is advisor.
Yeah.
It's not ADVSR. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's like DDRE, we know there's a full form for that.
Mm-hmm.
So DDRE is, we can say it like that. It's not Dr. Dre.
What do you mean?
But with advisor, there isn't a full form, so it's
advisor. And it was born out of wanting to enable people to be advisors. You should be able, we want people in our world. I want to deal with one person who I trust, who I like, who I respect, who I know can connect me around the world all the time. I want an advisor. I want someone to support me, to help me. Advisor was born out of doing that. This is why we called it advisor.
And it's a very, and I'll come on to sort of how it works and what it does. Mm-hmm. But at its sort of core, it's a marketing tool. It's a tool that enables advisors and brokers and agents and developers around the world to distribute their content.
Yeah.
To be an advertiser. This is where the other.
So the other acronym for ADVSR is advertiser, because everybody has the ability to market, thus are advertisers.
Okay, so I still think that a lot of this is very, it makes sense to us because we know of it.
Yeah.
What does the A to Z of ADVSR
I'm
sorry, advisor look like, right? Like what does it actually do? Like let's
let me tell you a story, and I'll take you back to like 8 years ago when I was the head of digital and Danny ran the private office, and he would regularly come down at our previous firm.
The one that showed
and he'd regularly come down, and we had a great relationship. He recognised the value of marketing and distribution and access, so he spent a lot of time with the marketing department, and I ran the digital element of that. And he'd often come to us with a challenge and be like, look, I've just taken on a £25 million penthouse in Mayfair, and there's 2,000 people in my phone book, like, I don't know, 500 ultra net worths and 5 billionaires, and I've called them all, and no one's looking for that asset in Mayfair. So I've done the social media thing, I've put content out there, and I think back then he had a reach of like 100,000, now it's obviously significantly greater. And he said, so that's sort of doing its thing. And we churned through the data of like the penthouse market in Mayfair, and we'd be able to really accurately define who the likely buyer for that property is. And let's say that the majority of buyers buying that sort of asset in Mayfair at the time were Middle Eastern. So we'd know that the likely buyer for this is likely to come from the Middle East somewhere. And Danny would go, well, I have access to some Middle Eastern heavy hitters, but I don't know everybody. I will never know everybody. And actually, we know that those other buyers in Dubai are out there somewhere, and they're probably transacting with other brokers, or they're playing golf with other advisors in Dubai or in Abu Dhabi or in Doha, wherever. And we sort of hypothesized that if we could get all those people to deliver the information about the listing to their client for us, that we'd be far more efficient or far more effective at getting the information about this new listing in Mayfair direct to the buyer, and thus initiate the beginnings of a transaction. Now, back then, the process that brokers had to go through was they'd create a lovely PDF brochure, and they'd pick up the phone, or they'd travel around the world meeting agents and go, hey, I've got this listing, we can put it in front of your clients. And it was one, labour intensive, two, the information that they were able to provide the agent on the ground in let's say Dubai was images or PDF brochures that they'd then have to crop and remove the brand logo, or remove Daniel's name and email, telephone number, because that's how it was provided by his marketing team. So we were sort of like, okay, there's got to be a better solution to this, and that's really the sort of the brainchild, or the genesis of Advisor, which was how do we make the most efficient route to market for brokers and developers. I know sort of the same works for developers, that enables them the most efficient route to the buyer with the least effort, because ultimately,
and also the most effective.
And the most effective.
That's not forgotten about in a second. Like you send a PDF, you get so many. I get probably 20 PDFs a day, and then it's gone. I've forgotten about it.
Yeah.
So in its sort of the simplest description of advisor, we white label real estate content, which means we put your brand on it, your face, your email address, your telephone number, and give you, as the recipient of the information, all the tools you need to distribute that piece of real estate to your network or to your active client base, to thus get an exposure for the listing, right? Now, a lot of what we see at the top end of the market is the need for control and sort of to be discreet in the way that real estate is sold. Now, in the old world, when you send a PDF out, if it's in a WhatsApp group, once it's gone, it's gone. You don't know who's looking at it, you don't know who's butchering it, cropping it, changing the price. So the next sort of phase, or the next feature that was a necessity for Advisor, was that the listing agent at all times remained in full control of the information, who had access, what that access was, what level of access, can they see all the images, can they distribute it mass market, do they have to be discreet? So we sort of built that as the next layer of technology into the platform that would allow brokers and advisors to send out discrete real estate information that could only be accessed if your representative in the market, we call them ambassadors, but your representative in Dubai can only be accessed by a buyer if they sent it on to that buyer. Right. So it means that I could ask you to be a representative and know that the only way anyone in Dubai would see it was if you shared it with them, because I know I didn't share it.
So is there some sort of like a glass door for this agent, like that you're pushing it to? Because how do you know they're good? Or
well, so hey, look, the whole industry is based on trust and track record.
Yeah.
So whilst we use a lot of data to make suggestions about who's the most appropriate agent for you to collaborate with or to invite to be an ambassador, there is an element of due diligence you need to do yourself to go, do I really want this guy or this girl, lady, representing my property or my client's property? Do I fully trust them?
Yeah.
And actually, then it becomes a self-policing platform, because as soon as I share it with you off market and you post about it on Twitter or you put it on Instagram, then I can do a big sort of thumbs down to you and go, hey, no one worked with Joel because he's untrustworthy.
Yeah.
And then the whole industry can see that I don't want to work with you. Yeah. And then, as I said, it becomes self-policing because you want to maintain your standing in the agent community.
Right, and that's interesting because in Dubai, and this is something that I've just heard from all of the other agents, now I experience it myself, because but a lot of them say that people are always trying to cut corners, go around people, try to do, like, let's say you're exclusively doing business with one person, they try to go around that person and try to win that client for themselves, and all of this stuff happens, and there's so many different nuances to it in every single market, right? So Dubai is one of those, London's another, New York's another, and it's being able to navigate all of those with sufficient nuance almost. I feel like it's such a challenge for agents that might use Advisor kind of a thing.
I think there's specifically, Advisor enables the information to be delivered from the person who is best placed to deliver that information. Because you're right, we've also found it that exactly as you said, markets work very, very differently, and the way people, even the same buyer who's buying in New York, Dubai, New York, buys differently in those places, expects a different level of service and has different expectations in those places. And honestly, it surprised us that way. And the thing of Advisor, it enables that person in Dubai to deliver that information to that person the way they expect to receive it, the same way it enables you in London. And I think the thing that people really care about, in my experience, is not that the data is the information is delivered, it's the way it's delivered and having control over that delivery. And with Advisor, you can cut off in a second, you can change the photos, you can change the videos, you can stop access to it completely. Okay. And to actually then have that ability to say, hey, thanks, I thought I was interested here, but I'm not. I don't want my asset going out to wherever it's, we're talking about this situation in Dubai, it's going far and wide, it's too much, and I feel uncomfortable with this now. Right. Cut off, done, stopped. Okay. That's it.
So you can cut it off.
Yeah, I think it's a vital part.
So we've gone into the platform quite a bit, but I want to talk about the individuals building the platform, right? And I'll go to Elliot first, because I've seen you be a Swiss Army knife. I know Sara's word as well, but
that's such a good description.
Yeah, like as in like because I think I've known you for the better part of a year almost now, and I've just seen you. You know how all of this stuff functions, like all of that, but also you're not a computer science major from what I
No.
You're not. And you're building
built a WordPress website once.
There you go. So, but then from what I've seen is that you've just kind of like transformed yourself to become so digitally adept almost, and like I think a lot of people struggle with accepting that change, like that our world is becoming so digital. It's hard for me to use technology. How do you kind of overcome that and then get your hands dirty with all of those things? It's not easy.
So, look, I came from a marketing background first and foremost, so I sort of understood marketing channels, and then right back at the beginning of my career was the head of or the lead social strategist at Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So early on I had sort of experience working at the top level from a marketing perspective, from a social perspective. As my career's progressed, I've increasingly like broadened my remit to the extent where now, as you say, do a bit of everything, and I've had to really step aside from traditional marketing into more technology and running the business and sales and like literally a little bit of everything. We're a full-time team of 3, sort of broader team of maybe 8, depending on the day of the week. It's interesting you say I'm a Swiss Army knife, because I did a Instagram story the other week, just being like, I'm going to put it out there. I'm lazy. I'm the laziest person in this business by such a long stretch. And if there's ever an opportunity for me to cut corner and find a way that something can be automated, or that I can outsource it to be done faster, or I can use AI to get 90% of the way there and sort of tweak it personally to get the final 10%, I will always take that route. And I think that sort of, to answer your question about the steps I've gone through to get there, it's about recognizing, or for me at least, it's about recognizing that I was never going to be an expert at everything. I could build a website as long as it's like WordPress or Wix. I could build an API as long as it's on Zapier or something. I can ask ChatGPT anything. I've become a pro at like prompts and going, hey ChatGPT, if I wanted to scrape Instagram, what software would I need to use, and can you provide me with step-by-step instructions as to how to do it? And in doing that, and sort of always looking for a quicker, easier, simpler route to the end goal, I sort of had experience doing a bit of everything, which includes like writing code, building APIs, connecting softwares, and it's culminated in, I guess, my ability to create a product that over the last 18 months has proven, or our ability has proven to be quite desirable and in demand.
Subtle flex, but
yeah,
I guess
that's pretty great, you know.
I should have added
globally. I am the shit.
In 6 out of the 7 continents around the world.
Our data tells us that I have 75 billion pounds of real estate on the platform. Today, I'm breathing easier because it's okay. So, look, that's really cool. I have to say, like, I've very few people. I've met a lot of tech people, and I've met a lot of non-tech folks that are tech people like myself. And to explore the edges of your curiosity to the extent where you know what Zapier means, or like say that, I will do something to the extent of that API thing or to that platform before asking someone else to do it, is exactly the way to build an MVP, right? It's kind of the way to kind of start experimenting on something before going like, I need an expert to come in and help me out with this, right? So I think that's awesome. Sara, you're just as much of a Swiss Army knife, but you wear a lot more operational hats kind of thing, which I think people struggle to realize how kind of it is to be a good COO. It's really not for everyone, and it's also not something that everyone knows how to do well. What do you think your playbook was sort of becoming that, COO of Netflix, like on Netflix brokerage kind of, and even before all of that, kind of getting the business to, I believe it was like the top 5 kind of brokerages.
4, don't do us down.
Well, if it's top 4, then it's number 4. I don't know if you want to be known as number 4. I was saying top 5, so it could be top 1.
I'm very proud of where we are.
Okay.
I'm happy to be top
number 4.
Brokerage
in the
in 4 years,
in 4 years,
this
in
is
terms of
for me is a big deal.
Kind of stuff,
The
which
prime
is
and super
hard
prime.
because the other 3 are like
hundreds of years old. Yeah.
So
with thousands of employees.
With thousands of employees, right? So how do you do that? How do you become that COO?
I think my career has been anything but linear. I've been all over the place, and I went from leaving school at 16, much to my whole family's dismay, a very academic, professional family, and discovering after 30 seconds that what I thought I was going to do was not what I wanted to do, and then being completely lost because it was the whole plan. And I've been all over the place, and I've done a few bits, and I fell, honestly, really thanks to my dad. I think when he was lost, he went to the sort of old school thing of, you're a girl, you don't know what you're doing, go to secretarial school. And so off I went, and didn't really enjoy it. The whole reason I left school when I was 16 is because I didn't want to work in an office. And I ended up, when I came back I went abroad, I went to Australia for a year, and then I was in New Zealand for a couple of years. And I came back and wasn't quite sure, so I kind of fell back on that. And I was working as a PA in Sony, and then a PA at our last firm at Knight Frank. And I think that gave me...
She said it. She said the name.
We'll bleep that. Can you imagine if we bleeped it, please?
I can do it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that'd be so funny. Wait, I want to keep saying it, then I want you to keep bleeping.
No.
I'm joking.
I paid more for every bleep.
Yeah. How much do you have to pay per bleep?
That's not.
I want to know if it's worth it. I'll pay.
Anyways, so you were saying Australia.
But seriously, so I was, and I had an amazing time there. And anyway, I came back and I sort of fell back on that. But I think actually there was lots I loved about being a PA. I really enjoyed the sort of the relationship you have, the one-on-one relationship you have with people, and having instant validation. I enjoyed being part of something, but you almost get to be part of something with no responsibility. That's on someone else's shoulders, and I got to do all the fun stuff, and then they took it. And I think it also gave me a really good understanding and acceptance of what it really takes to... You need to have no ego. That's the point, actually. You need to have no ego as a PA, and you need to be able to execute, and then always have someone else own your work. And I think in hindsight, it was a great thing for now, this business, of understanding, A, that when something needs to get done, it just needs to get done. And also of accepting, I think one of the things about being a PA, and then also of being a CEO, if the better I am at my job, the less people know what job I'm doing, that I'm doing anything. I almost make myself, while you're sort of indispensable, you're also almost doing yourself out of a job, because the more efficiencies I make, the better the operational things are running, the more...
the less you're needed.
The less I'm needed. This is exactly the point. And so your job is always to find other ways to improve things or other ways to do things and what have you. But no one ever knows about those things until they're implemented. And then you have to sort of find another thing. But it's a space I'm really comfortable in. I really enjoy it. I'm a little bit like Elliot. I like getting involved in everything. I'm a real solutions person. I never accept anything's good enough. I always think there's a better way of doing things. And so for me, in terms of that and the business, it's a great place to be.
So you would say basically being able to, be the Swiss Army knife behind the scenes almost, and almost remove yourself out of the role. Like you're trying to eliminate your own role with the things that you do, and that's how you be
completely so. We all the time. Daniel says to me, I said, look, we really need to hire, like the wonderful Rue we hired as our finance manager recently, and then I said, actually, and then we need this person and stuff. And he literally joked me the other day. He said, what's your job going to be? You're hiring all these people to do all these things that you don't like doing, and then what's your job going to be? But I'm very comfortable knowing we're a growing business. I want to build the business, and we keep going. But yeah, exactly that. The more you grow, the less you do.
What do you think your role is going to evolve to be?
What a good question. I think my role will evolve to be, the bits I really enjoy, I love growth, I love people, and I love the kind of strategy and working things out. So I think that will be much more as the day-to-day starts doing its thing and we have more structure in the businesses and we're kind of moving forward, we know where we are. That's the bit that I really want to focus on.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exciting chapter for both of you right now. What were you going to say?
Yeah.
He's like,
yeah, literally. I was like,
my turn to pat myself on the shoulder.
No, I was going to say, and I think Sara sort of alluded to it, but when you work with a visionary, and you'll have people listening to you that like sit in our shoes that are sort of slightly behind the scenes of a visionary CEO, like an Elon Musk type character.
And stuff being us, you know, us.
Yeah, like your team.
Yeah.
I feel your team's pain when you
you
call
are
them
though
up,
visionary. Yeah.
when you call them up at 2 a.m.
Don't do
and you
yourself
go,
down.
I've had an idea.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we've got to do this thing. We've got to do it right now.
Yeah. No.
One of our roles in both respective businesses is to go, okay, we've heard you. This is what that actually means when we trickle that down to the wider army that we have sort of behind the scenes. Because sometimes it's an idea and with no real sort of concept of the implications that has on the running of the business and the other priorities that we've got. So we're sort of, our roles sort of semi-protectors of the people that sit alongside us, but also translators, because these sort of visionary type characters, and I see it day in, day out, get overexcited and go like, we got to do this amazing thing and turn the whole website red right now. And it's like, okay, let's like take a minute. Do you really mean red? Do you really mean the whole website? Do you really mean right now?
What is it you're trying to achieve?
And that's one of our, I think, collective strengths is just to go, what do we really mean?
So what kind of ideas do you guys shoot down?
So there's this kid that keeps asking us to go on his podcast.
Ah, shit. All of you folded so hard. Very bad jokes.
No. Do you know what? Right now, as Sara says, we're in this like high growth phase.
Yeah.
Everything we're doing for the first time. No one else has done it before. Very few people have attempted to do anything like this before. And 9 times out of 10, we try it. We try and like accommodate these big ideas or distill them into something, a series of ideas that we can roll out over time.
But I can think that like an example with Advisor, I think, is one of the big ideas there that actually I think is like the idea and we should absolutely be doing is the ability to customize your own microsite. So for you as a customer of Advisor, can put your own stuff on it the way you want it, in your colors, in your this, in your that, and da 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 da. And it's a great idea, and I think at some point we probably will do that. But Elliot quite rightly said this is high cost, high time, and actually the people who are using Advisor currently, it's not their priority, and they don't need it, and they don't need other things. And I think again that. Having that backwards and forwards and the in and the out, and I think it's this and I think it's that. Yeah. Interesting, with all 3 of us, we all think and approach things very, very differently, like super differently. And I think it's such a stress. Sometimes it's really frustrating. Sometimes you just want everyone to agree with you, and sometimes I just want to sit down and say, hey, we should do this and let's go. And probably it's the same for you, and I'm sure it's the same for Daniel. But actually having this approach of kind of like almost a tripod and people are like, hey, I think it's this, hey, I think it's this, have you thought about this? It either means you get to convince one person and it's 2 against 1, or it's that you come round and round in a circle and you get to a point where you're like, okay, fine, we're moving forwards and this is what it is.
The other big ticket item, I suppose, that we relatively early on went, let's park this for a minute, is the whole idea of integrating blockchain into our process some way. Because when we founded ADVSR, when we founded Advisor, it was all the rage. Like Web3 was the first page of our pitch deck, and we were just like, this is the narrative that we need to go with.
Yeah, it's so
in
true,
order
actually.
to attract investors or appeal to this sort of tech entrepreneurial advisor that we thought was going to be our core customer. The reality of all of that it's really complex. The same outcome can be done on a SQL database or whatever, Amazon AWS database that we've just spun up in 10 minutes and with no real serious effort, not to dismiss my teams like what they do, but no real serious effort that a blockchain program
it's a different effort,
would have had to go through. Again, I think the global real estate industry market, that's the right word to describe it, will eventually adopt it.
Yeah.
But we don't need to be at the forefront of that right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
No, I think that makes sense. And if you guys, circling back to that earlier conversation, if you do need a website built, sign up for Kendal. Which is, so we've obviously like our offerings evolved significantly since we last spoke, because we were like a AI social media management kind of tool. But then taking away really what was the most important parts of what we saw the agents actually wanted when we started talking to agents, kind of as opposed to just, like making whatever we thought that they wanted. It made me realize that the CRM is like a very important component of this real estate landscape, and most brokerages don't do it well. They just like, have this something that they've copy pasted from somewhere and then just using it for themselves, but that's the black book, right? It's kind of like the thing that you need when you're like picking up the phone and you sell £25 million home, who do you call, right? So how do you see your agents leveraging CRM? And usually I can't ask this question because most folks will not have as granular an insight into this as much as both of you would. So what do you...
I think the interesting thing about agents is, I don't think you're the laziest person in the business. I think agents are. I think that they can be super motivated, know exactly the right thing to do from an operational standpoint, but all they're interested in, and kind of rightly so, is what makes them good at their job, is speaking to people, meeting clients, doing deals, and being out and about talking to people. So, and I think also another thing is that you don't know what you don't know. So showing agents the reason to be connected and in their CRM and using it and putting the information in so they can get the information out is vital. And I think at the point where you are able to explain the value add and make it easy, that's a big part. And we've had the same thing in our business, to make it easy to interact with that and turn data into information that's usable that you can then give to your clients is everything. And at the point where you then do, in our business is completely built on collaboration. And so we've had to really like push our CRM to the limit to enable, but also, it's, you want to collaborate, but also your IP is your contacts. So creating an environment where people can be sure that their IP is safe, but also connect and give it out and what have you, is a really not an easy thing to do. But we're getting there with that now. And I think at the point you have that done, it's great. And then the other thing is the ability to interact with your clients quickly and easily from your CRM. The second you get that part done, again, they're using it constantly. We use our CRM like an MLS. We have everything on the market across London in our CRM. Everything over £1 million is there. So at the click of a button, you can send it out. You don't even have to think about it. This has been another thing for us that's been vital, to get people using it, get people connecting, getting people going. And I think once you start doing that, once you start making people's lives easier, it's done. It's easy.
And the best thing, for me at least, when we built this, what Sara's just described there, is you hear an agent come down in the morning and they'll be like, Mrs. Jones has just called me. She's had an automated email alert for a property that I have no idea about. And she's just called me and I booked a viewing and she's made an offer and I didn't even know it was happening. And now I'm in for a 20 grand fee. And it's like, if you just replicate that scenario with Mrs. Jones 10 times, you're on 6-figure salary. It's like,
and you've done nothing.
10 times, you've done nothing. You just put a name and an email address and had a conversation with a Mrs. Jones. But
we've also had the same thing from Advisor, where people haven't known. I think the thing about Advisor is it enables you to be a global agent from your sofa. And so we've also had the exact same thing with our guys in DDRE, where someone's called up, seeing a listing on a microsite in Barbados. I think Barbados. Exactly. I didn't know that you were in Barbados. And look, we're listed on, I think, 2-3 properties now. It's amazing.
The best thing about, I think a lot of agents get, in my marketing career in the real estate sector, agents get into this sort of this headspace or this sort of process whereby they win a listing, They take photos, they put it on their website, and they sit back and go,
Watch the magic happen.
watch the magic happen.
Yeah.
And what they don't realise is that sort of launch process, or that marketing process, is actually, in the super prime space, at least like years long.
Yeah.
Sometimes like 5-10 years long.
Wow.
Not our business.
No, we're still far faster, but
Just to be clear.
the people are listening to your show will realise, or they'll have seen, there's properties that have been on the market forever.
Yeah.
And you've seen them on the market forever. Now, the great thing about a platform like Advisor is that you know the buyer for that property is out there somewhere.
Yeah.
You don't know where they are or when they're going to be in the headspace for sort of purchasing. So if you can push your properties to the most likely places that they're going to be, and those are the agents around the world that they're likely to be sort of engaging with. Daniel Daggers is a lovely example of this. All of a sudden, he's got millions of eyeballs looking at him.
Yep.
If your property is next to Daniel Daggers, it's going to be seen, right, by some of those 2 million people. There's another lady that uses the platform who is, she works out Marbella, and she is sort of Mrs. Eco Home.
Okay.
So wherever in the world you have an eco property, you need her to be representing it because she gets so many clients coming to her for eco properties. And the way that our platform works is you can invite them to be an ambassador, put it on market, it sits on their microsite. So you could be a buyer looking at properties on her Instagram in Spain. You click on one, you go through to her website, you go, oh, she also has properties in Portugal. Wow, that's the property I like. And then you inquire. And the listing agent has no idea that that's just happened until a buyer referral appears in their inbox saying, hey, listing agent, this family's just contacted me. They're looking at a holiday home in Portugal and they're interested. Can I refer them across? A listing agent would never have had access to that family because they don't follow them on Instagram. They're not in their CRM. They don't have marketing material going out in Portugal. And they're sort of doing deals in their sleep.
So, the reason I asked you so many of these questions, very not just for my research, of course, but also just in the context of people just assume that you have a Netflix show and then you guys became famous and then you guys became successful. That's not what happened here. You were successful because of the systems that you had in place, the technology that you're using, the marketing engines that you have working well before any of this even happened. And now what this has just done is thrown a supercharger on top of all of the engines you already had working, and it's just multiplying every single
It's really tested up processes, right?
Yeah, it really has. Netflix for us was just another avenue to another one of the things that we're doing, another channel. Yeah. We are big on social, we're big on other digital channels, we're big in tech. And Netflix was just another way to get more eyeballs on our clients' listings. That was it. Yeah. More eyeballs on London, more eyeballs on the industry in general. Yeah. That's it. It's just been that.
How's that been like for you, both of you? Professionally speaking, personally speaking, I assume it takes a toll to have a show like this go out and the volumes, the hours are probably insane. I know both of you live, breathe, and eat, sleep, ADVSR/DDRE, obviously. Yeah. And I get the voice from Sara in the morning, and there's some sort of rave music going on at 8 a.m. I know that this space is popping 24/7. But how's it been for the both of you? Yeah.
It's been incredible. Actually, it's been unbelievable. This has been a long time in the making. This has been conversations for years and years and years, and then we've been making it happen for the majority of the time DDRE has been happening. So for it to finally come out, honestly, was actually and it's been super, super cool. And then in terms of exactly as you just said, testing the processes, testing what we've got going on. At the end of the day, this is effectively a bootstrap business. If we don't hire more staff, we look for efficiencies, in lots and lots of ways. And so the amount of business it has generated so quickly has honestly shocked me, and the level of it has surprised me in a wonderful way. It's been very, very cool. But yeah, it really has. I mean, exactly as you said, it's gone from being 12-hour days to being 15, 16, 17-hour days, and very, very long. But it's just added an energy, I think, we've always been a pretty energetic team, but it's added this buzz and this energy, and it's so cool. And I went to an event on a Tuesday, like an industry event, and there it's like it's actually the first time since the show's come out that I've got to be kind of en masse with the industry, and everyone's obsessed with us.
Oh.
But just cool, like, yeah.
Everyone's obsessed.
But it is, and like, love it or hate it, and whether it's your thing or it's not your thing or whatever, I think there's, for me, no doubt that we've shone a spotlight on London, this incredible city and this incredible industry. Like, there's so much potential for amazing things in the real estate industry, and I think that for me is the big thing that the show has kind of proved is possible in there, and people are interested in it, and it's amazing. And it's just like every day, everybody is. I love coming into the office. Like, I love coming in. I love the energy. I love the churn, the motivation. It's
guys,
very,
this
very
is Sara
cool.
when you're going to sell Sara today. Like, that's all I'm saying. This is not at all. So, what's next? What's next for ADVSR? DDRE, etc. Like, what do you? What's happening? Because like, it doesn't. Where do you go from Netflix show? I guess. What?
Global.
Hollywood. No, I can talk for Advisor. So we're really, right now, our big sort of focus is really exploring the realms of AI. We use AI in a lot of our workflows, whether it's content generation for social media or ambassador recommendation engine, identifying who the best collaborators are to work with, through to really simple things like when you upload a listing to our platform, it reviews all your images and writes you a description. So little things like that will really improve efficiencies of our users. That's our sort of big focus right now. And I want to get our sort of, our user base really engaging with one another. So we've built a community, and we now have a few hundred people in a WhatsApp group and on a Discord channel, and they're meeting up with each other, like literally flying around the world to collaborate with one another, film content with one another. They're referring clients to one another. So that whole sort of community play, again, is a key element. And I think there'll be a stage later on this year where we combine the two and goes, hey, Sara, it looks like you're having a conversation with James about a client in Amsterdam. Have you spoken to Hans? And start connecting people based on their activity on the site, which I think is super powerful.
Really cool. Okay, so I've not asked any of the usual questions that I ask my guests because it's a very different situation. A, I know both of you, and also B, it's just like two. So one thing that I do want from the both of you is, what advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
I was living a pretty cool life at 21, actually. I'm not sure she needed advice. I think I would tell her, that's such a good question. I can't remember 21, it's like a lifetime ago. Do you know what you give your 21-year-old self?
So age 21, I was living in New Zealand and then Canada. I was a snowboard
I was in New Zealand when I was 21.
And I was like the dude.
Yeah.
And so I think my advice to myself would be just roll with it. It pans out all right in the end.
Yeah.
Don't sweat the small stuff. I was freaking out about when I moved back to London. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a geography degree. Like, what can I do with that?
Yeah.
We're going to draw a volcano for someone. And look,
there's hope for you.
I can still draw a meat volcano. That's your YouTube cover. But yeah, look, it pans out all right in the end. Just keep hustling, keep working hard, take inspiration from wherever you can. Try and sit with someone. I was lucky that I met Daniel when I did, and it meant I could just hang out with him for the last 3 years. And I think I've learned so much from being with him and the people that he surrounds himself with, because he's got an amazing network of entrepreneurial visionaries. You're part of that. You're part of that world, I think. And it's been, just roll with it, and say yes a lot, and just see what happens.
Sara?
I think you made me think of two things. I think I would tell myself, I only discovered that I was entrepreneurial probably 8 months ago. Maybe a year ago. And I think until then, I'd never recognized that in myself. And when I think back to my time when I was traveling, I was super entrepreneurial and never recognized it as such. And I think I would have told myself that, I'd given myself that advice sooner, and I would have done something about it sooner. And I think I also would have told her that life is long. Like, you have time. There are things happening. And I think for me back then, if something wasn't working, immediately I would switch it out. And I think that one of the amazing things when I think about my time at the firm that shall not be named, it felt like a long time, but I worked it out. And now when I think about it, I was there less time than I've even been here. Like, it was no time at all. And it enabled me to meet Daniel, it enabled me to learn. I learned so much there. And without that, I never would be able to do what I'm doing now. And I think that's the other thing. I would have said to myself, chill, there's more time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's been an amazing episode of Real Ones. I think that was awesome, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think it's just important for people to hear the story behind, all the celebrity glitz and glam and all the super agents and all that kind of stuff. Behind the scenes, I think all of them and Daniel and beyond, everyone knows that, you guys are a huge driving force as part of that. And I think I'm really lucky that I get to sit down and give you guys that spotlight piece, because I think it's absolutely necessary. And there's a reason you're at the forefront of the industry, and this is why, because this is how you need to think if you want to, be that. But thanks so much for coming on. Yeah.
Thank you for having us. Really amazing conversation.
Awesome. See you guys in the next episode of The Real Ones.